Hi there, and welcome to Busternet. This is the show called Game Changer. It's a new show. It's gonna be one of the main shows that I'll be running on for FM18 as well. Because one of the reasons why I'm doing it is because in FM18 we're gonna have a kind of a new look to the game. So it's gonna be kind of cool for me to see how other people approach their games. And here we are with this save, and this is gonna be a chance for me to take a look at Ali Fang's save from FM17. Now, he is managing a club called Atletico Bilbao, and he's asked me to take a look at his little save. It's not doing too badly. They're in sixth place. One of the things that I normally do whenever I start any kind of a save is I will just make sure that I will go to the league in which they are in and then see the season preview. Well, he's more or less on track 6-1. I know the odds are 6-1. Then what kind of promises have you made to the board? We'll go and check your board confidence as well to see whether you're doing okay. Well, they're satisfied with his overall performance. Basically, it's all right. But they did lose to Vigo. This is a bit of a shock. This is probably a very bad defeat against Vigo. Um, well, how did they play? They Atletico Bilbao used a 4-1-4-1 and they lost to a 4-2-3-1. Well, this kind of a system it tends to require being played on at least a flexible to a fluid setting. So when you play a tactic like a 4-1-4-1, if you play it on structure, then your players will be very good versus the other formation. So you could use that to stretch a team. A 4-2-3-1, on the other hand, is a great tactic. Uh, if you can play them in DM positions and be a bit narrow, then this tactic actually becomes extremely dangerous. With a 4-2-3-1 play done like this, then if they come out playing defensive or structured, then it's a challenge for the 4-2-3-1 to be played because those players are going to be there on their own during transitions a lot, and you're going to depend on them to break down teams. So these tactics play better when they're flexible. If good teams can play them on structure and get away with beating sides. So it depends on the kind of a team that you're playing against. These tactics are vulnerable, but isolation is a typical problem for these tactics. If you can if their fullbacks don't get involved in transitions, there's a strong possibility they get choked, and this is where the 4-1-4-1 should be able to beat that system. By choking the midfield and cutting off the supply route to the front four, you could effectively, you could choke this tactic. So you'd be wanting to camp where create a 4-1-4-1 in such a way that it camps in the opponent's half and chokes the midfielders from getting to the ball. That way, you isolate their back four. The back four then get locked into your back four, and they don't have much room to move. So, ideally, when you play a 4-1-4-1 against a 4-2-3-1, you want to be camping. So we have a now we're just gonna go very quickly through the squad. And one of the things I do whenever I start a save is I'm gonna be very methodical about this. Let's look at your training. What have you done with the training? Well, you have gone into a training schedule, which is one of my training schedules, which is a very customized training schedule. So you want to be making sure that you're training them for a while. So I noticed that you have a balanced training schedule for most of the season, and then you switch to something which is your principal focus. That's brilliant. I like it when people do something like this, and you've stuck to one tactic the whole season. Even better still. I mean, I love this. You've got a style of play, and you want to stick to it to hell and high water. Everybody plays against me. That's brilliant. I love this philosophy. How about your scheduling now? This is probably down to the fact that you have playing 2 games a week. Totally understand this. So what I normally do is I'll go to your my I'll have a training one here, and then I'm looking at the workloads. This is a bit of a concern. Now, when you see a lot of players with very heavy here like this, now you want to be thinking to yourself, what are the chances of them getting injured? And if these are key players, there's going to be an issue. So when you have players on very heavy, these are youngsters. Maybe they're not in your first team. We drop this, we drop this, we drop this. Now we're only looking at a senior squad. Well, we have one player who's all very heavy, so I wouldn't go changing my training routines, but I'll be monitoring this because their chances are he is very heavy, probably also because of the matches that he's playing. If I remove him from a position, he's probably I'm not going to include him in the team, but generally these are things that we want to be looking out for. Now, so that's fine. Now looking at the team report and then looking at your team, then I hope you guys know that you can use the squad tab, and then you can look for currently selected roles for your tactic and see what are your options. in your tactic. So it all depends on whether your Steve Walsh is a very good assistant manager. So if he's not, then find somebody in here who's very good at judging player ability and has got good tactical knowledge. So if I'm looking through your team based on the settings that they have, it looks like your wide players, your Ika Munianian, and that's it. Your options aren't very good. Then we can look at all the attributes here, and then we can compare all the relevant players that you have for this position. In your 4-1-4-1, your players, I'm looking to see whether, because I'm worried about 4-1-4-1s that when people don't think about support duties and think about whether they have the right mentals for those positions. So whenever you're thinking about a support player, consider the mentals first. The one mental you want to be aiming for support duties, if you expect them to come in and defend, is definitely positioning. They get positioning in, you shouldn't have an issue. But there are going to be times when you play support players just because you need them in a deeper position so that you can spray passes. Now, if these are players that you have in your team, like I have those kind of players in my tactic too. Like I have Cesar Lopez with Gloucester City, that sometimes I play him as a deep line playmaker. On support, he's only got 6 for tackling. Does that mean that I shouldn't be playing him there? No. Then if I have a player like that and I intentionally play him in a deeper position, in a role that is expected to tackle, and I know he can't tackle, then I would always make sure that there's somebody around him who can do the job for him. So you gotta be thinking along those lines when you create a tactic. So there are some players here pretty interesting. But like here, Saban, he's an attacking midfielder. Passing 11, vision 11. He's already 26 years old. If he can't play in your team, and you definitely can't see him in your team for the next few months, he's gonna have to be sold. I probably wouldn't keep a player like him. I don't keep players like this. The only thing that they have going for them is crossing and dribbling. It's like in the whole world of technicals, they only have 2 technicals they can pull off. And balance is only 9. So he's attacking. The amount he brings to the table in terms of an attacking player is like next to nothing. So the only thing he can definitely do is be another pin striker. And even then, he's not good on the turn. So why would I want him to be a pin striker? His first touch is only 12. His passing is 11. His decisions are 13. Okay, fine. Determination 8. I can't count on him when the boys are a goal down. So yeah. This is not a player that I would rate. So this is what you can do with your team. Go through each position. Now, if you find that these positions are not viable positions, then go scouting. You can have this option to scout for a central midfielder, pick it up, and you can cover him up. Rather, you can get another guy to cover that position. Okay, so we've gone through the team, and now I'm going to go through your tactic. So we've done this. We've done 1, 2. I've noticed certain things about your system, and we have a match in 3 days' time. So let me just fast forward. When I go through some of your matches that you've played, I'm looking to see certain trends. Like one of the things I'm worried about when people use a 4-1-4-1 is that they forget that a 4-1-4-1, if it's played on fluid settings, it can also be very vulnerable because you compress as you go forward. So if your players are very fluid, for example, you're playing fluid or very fluid settings, then what's going to happen is that your team gets moved apart. They can be easily ripped apart, and you lose cohesion. So teams that are playing wider systems, they tend to tear you apart, and they're able to get themselves into goal scoring positions. Now, if I watch this game between Hispalis and Athletic Bilbao, I'd reckon this is a match that you should have won. As you can see here, your boys tried to clear the ball from deep. They couldn't get it up, but Janusaj plays the ball up into Sanabria, gets in, and they managed to score that goal. Now, as I was watching this game, certain things also stood out to me. Whenever you move the ball, and then when you try to attack, whenever things break down, your boys are having to find position. So they get caught out of position too easily. So you get zones left open, and when you get zones left open, they're easy to take advantage of. Now the question is, what do we do in certain situations? Because when we play with one tactic, we really need to come up with a way to how do we play against different kinds of systems. So we got to identify, okay, all right, these are my strengths. I need to learn how to make a camping version, a defensive version, a counter version, an attacking version. So in your head, you got to think about all these other versions of your tactic. So what do I do? against different kinds of systems. So those are generally the things. Like here we can see your boys are moving the ball up the pitch relatively well. But if you also notice one other thing, they because they're so fluid when they move up the pitch, they're also going to leave themselves open to the counter because a lot of your boys are actually out of position as they move the ball up. And this is something that I noticed in a few of the matches that I watched. Against against Vigo, I'm also looking for signs of the same thing. This is another match where you struggled as well. Um, you managed to, I mean, in terms of possession, you didn't have very much possession against a side that was playing a 4-2-3-1. Now, here, we got to think the strength of the 4-2-3-1 lies in its ability to drag teams out of position. The strength of the 4-2-3-1 lies in its ability to get a lot of players into attack. Now, the 4-2-3-1 in itself can be isolated. Like you can split a 4-2-3-1, but you need to isolate it by either attacking it down these vulnerable areas. You can camp in a 4-2-3-1's half and generally reduce the supply route to the front four players. Now, the Vigo side was playing with fullbacks that were not really willing to get further forward. But here against the 4-2-3-1, your side was also again very fluid, and you've got players in who are they're getting out of position again. This the theme in your system is this. I love 4-1-4-1s, but the problem with the 4-1-4-1 is you need to play like Pep Guardiola sides to actually make the 4-1-4-1 superb. Now, a lot of people love those tactics, but the problem they have then is, do they have the technical players in the side to pull those kind of systems off? And as you can see, you were being stretched by Vigo's 4-2-3-1 in this match. And what we have to do is we have to find out what your boys can do and then what they can't do. Now, when we look at your tactic and we try to establish why do you look so compact, I loved it. When the first time I looked at your tactic, I actually loved all the roles and duties in your tactic. Now, when you create any kind of a tactic, the first thing you think of is duties. That's the first thing that goes into your head. You place your duties out, and then after that, you start thinking in terms of the right roles, whether you've got the right roles in the right places. Now, when I'm looking at this tactic, the first thought that went through my head was, okay, fine, we got inverted wingback pushing up into this position, so this guy goes attacking, and then we got wide midfielder who's going to be supporting basically those three. Nice. Then I'm thinking, but what happens when you go attacking? That you don't have a player to like stretch your own defense. Like you want to make sure that your defense is narrow, true, but you also want to be wide when you're attacking so that you get options when you're attacking. We've got a central midfielder attack because wide midfield attack. We got a DLP on support who also pushes up into the attacking transitions. We got wide playmaker. We got wing back on attack trying to overlap. At the back we got sweep. I see it now. I looked at the tactic and I'm going like, yeah, I get what you're trying to do. It's really brilliant. But how do you get them to do all the things that you want them to do? We got retain possession. We got pass into space. Vigo match 33 possession. You couldn't even pass into space. Shot has been removed in situations like that. Retain possession. These kind of shots, you don't use them in combination. You don't retain possession and pass into space together, right? Pass into space tells the player to. You're telling your players to run and you're telling your players to look for those passes into space. But retain possession as a shot reduces through balls. So they don't work together. So I would take one out. I would decide which one I'll take out. So if I wanted to attack teams, I'd probably pass into space, hit early crosses, if I was that aggressive minded. Narrow, when I'm attacking, because you're so narrow in attack, what happens is we saw that in so many of the matches. You're so narrow in attack. What happens when you lose the ball? You're so open to a counter because your boys are out of position so easily. Because you got a lot of interesting roles, and I'm gonna just recommend that we remove some of these shouts in the next game. And what I'm gonna do as well is, now we've got all those. We've seen the tactic. I mean, the tactic as a whole could do with we know we could tweak the tactics slightly in terms of its choice of team instructions. I'm going to create a camping version of your tactic. I'm going to create a attacking version of your tactic. And definitely, you can definitely create a defensive version of your own tactic. It's really easy. All you got to do is remove this guy, tell him not to be an inverted wingback anymore, tell him to just be a fullback on support, and this guy is a wingback on support, and there you have your own defensive version of this tactic. So you got 3 ways of playing this system. So now what we're going to do next is we're going to look at your team, and then we're going to look at your support duties in your team and whether or not you've got the right kind of players to do support. When I'm looking at my support duties, the first thing I narrow down is positioning. Okay, so every single player I want to see come back to defend, I want this guy to come back, I want this guy to come back. Basically, I want this guy to be defending. These 2 guys in the right supporting position, they need good positioning as well, because I need all 4 of them to be defending, right? But these 2 guys, while they're attacking in orientation, I do want them to shut down passing lanes. So they need to have good positioning as well. So just because they're on attack duty doesn't necessarily mean they won't be doing any defending. So if you're looking at all the positioning attributes here, we've got 17, 16, 16, 16 for these guys. He's playing in the final third, so let's remove this position. Then what about the other midfielders? We've got positioning 15, 14. Then it gets progressively. Then I see the players that you've chosen for most of your games. They have the worst positioning. Okay, there we go. Ika Muninian, can't depend on him for defending, right? He's 11-8 for positioning, so that's it. He's gone. He can't. We know he cannot defend. Then we've got Markel Suseta, 12 for positioning. Not very good, even though his determination is 13. He's got low strength. So this guy playing on the right flank has got wide WM attack duty. When I'm looking at this player in a defensive transition, he's not there. So I can't expect him to do anything. So that's it. He's out. Then wow. So we've got other players in the team. So I need determination. I need work rate. I need them to have positioning. I need them to be able. Look, you want to make a 4-1-4-1, then let's make a 4-1-4-1 that has got players with the right technicals as well. So you need good mentals. You need good technicals. A 4-1-4-1 needs that in order for it to be truly a solid system that can take on any other tactic in the game. So whenever you're looking at your tactic and you're looking at these positions, these guys, they got to be able to do the job defensively as well. So just because they've got an attack duty, we chosen a WM role. If truly I didn't want him to do any attacking, I'd have gone winger on attack. That's it. I just go, okay, you wing on attack, forget about the defensive end of the job because you can't do it. But then if that is the case and he's a winger on attack, then this dude here is never going to be an inverted wingback. Because if I have him as an inverted wingback, I open myself up to all kinds of shit on the right, on that side of the flank. So there is no way that's going to happen. Okay, so you need to know what your options are. So if I wanted to make this a really attacking tactic, what would I do? I honestly would turn him into a winger attack. The inverted wingback is not an inverted wingback. I'll move the inverted wingback to the other flank. So these are the things that you have to think about. Like, okay, if I'm going to attack down this flank, how do I protect it? These are things that you're going to ask yourself. Having a wide midfield on attack, having a central midfield on attack, and having an inverted wingback on attack is just telling me, okay, yes, it's great in an attacking sense, but what do I get in terms of defense? Because then this player, DeMarcos, is very, very important. He becomes the most important player in your team. He needs to have acceleration, he needs to have positioning, he needs to have tackling, he needs to have anticipation, concentration. He's got to have the whole 9 yards. This guy is the whole 10 yards. So every yard you need, this guy's got to be good. All right. So if you want to play him as an inverted wingback, with those 2 guys on attack duty, this guy has to be the best fullback you have, or possibly the decision on this play is very important. And his acceleration is 13. No way, I wouldn't play him. Why? I need better acceleration from him, or he needs to have very good anticipation and positioning. So it's either one or the other. Now his anticipation is only 12, not very good. His positioning is only 13, average or below average. Against certain teams, he's going to be caught out of position. His concentration is 14. Yes, not too bad. Yeah, but does he have that right positioning to be in that position? So playing as an inverted wingback with a wide midfielder on attack on the right flank, is it a good move to use an inverted wingback here? Not really, because you're leaving yourself open. So do we have any other players in your team that can play as inverted wingbacks? Here I'll go for defensive. I'll be looking at 2 kinds of players: defensive midfielders as well as fullbacks. If you notice, Pep Guardiola, who uses the inverted wing back, uses Fabian. He used Fabian Delph in a recent game, and he's actually a defensive midfielder. My preferred choice for inverted wing back is actually the defensive midfielder. So if you have defensive midfielders who can play in that position, those are the ones you want to use. Now we got this player. Now, tackling 14, positioning 14, anticipation 14, concentration 14, determination 15, decisions 13, acceleration. He would have been a better. I would play him instead of Oscar De Marcos. How the hell did he go out of contract? His passing is 12 and his decisions are 13. Compare him to Oscar De Marcos. Oscar De Marcos' decisions are 11. When you want to play an inverted wingback, please make sure he has got good decisions and acceleration and anticipation and positioning and passing and tackling. So he needs all of those, all of the above. So this guy is actually better in this position. So I'm going to play this guy. Then we got another player here. 13, anticipation, 14, positioning. Natural fitness, the only thing that he doesn't have is he might not last 45 minutes, but he's not that bad either. So I definitely wouldn't be using Oscar De Marcos in that position. However, I might put Oscar De Marcos and make him my Susieta, my white this player you've got on the right flank. I'll change him for this match. Susieta wouldn't be playing. The jumping reach 9, anticipation 14, tackling 11. Okay, so fine. He can do a bit of defending, but his strength is 9, right? So he gets pushed off the ball. His balance is 11. So the question is, can this guy, De Marcos, play in that position? Slightly, there's a marginal difference between these two players, but he's got a good boot on him to do a cross, 13. Okay, and then compared to Susieta crossing is 14 and dribbling is 13. So there's a minor difference between the two players. Okay, so I would definitely be starting with Boveda in the next match. Okay, so this is how I go through my players. I look at how they can perform their role, because firstly, we've gone with an inverted wingback. Now, I will use the inverted wingback, but now, because I'm using the inverted wingback, I need to get the best player in your team to play in that position. For some of the games, he may be good as an inverted wingback. In some of the games, I will change that position and make him play as a fullback, or maybe even as a fullback on support. Then in that particular case, if I still wanted to use a wingback, I'll turn this guy into a winger on support then. I'll just leave this guy as a winger on support. Let's get a bit more security. We use the right kind of role. Let him bomb forward when we control the pitch. And that is it's not as risky, playing an inverted wingback combination here. So these are some of the roles, and I think overall, I do think overall the tactic is pretty decent. We're just removing that. We just removed that retained possession shot that we don't want, and also, that I'm probably gonna just play fairly narrow, not super narrow like you did for our next game. Our next game is against Tartanega in the they're in the Spanish second division. So I'll play that game on my own, and it will feature Malaga and Maribor. So what I'll do is I'll play 3 games, and I'll come back and give you an update on how the match went. And we will cover 2 of these matches in the next show called In the Hot Seat, where I actually show you a playthrough of exactly what I did in terms of changes. Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Game Changer series. Now, the here on Game Changer, I approach different saves in different ways. Now, here, this particular save, the question was whether or not you use what I go in and I try and spot certain things. Now, what we spotted immediately was the fact that I love the fact that you use one tactic, which is the 4-1-4-1. But what is it about that tactic that gave me some concern was the fact that perhaps you weren't reacting to some of the in-game events that were going on. And that is why I noticed certain teams were playing in a certain way, and your tactic did not morph. It didn't change. And because of some of the roles and duties that you have, and the way you've set them up, what would happen is you either fail to build up play, lose possession, and then your players would get pulled out of position too easily. And we identify some of the possible reasons why that could have happened. Against Cartagena, we played the inverted wingback, and we also put in some of your boys into the game, and I discovered something very quickly in this game. Even we youngsters in against weaker opposition, we conceded a goal from the inverted wingback's position because of the position that he takes, because of the spaces that we leave open on our right flank. I was a bit concerned with how we were able to. I was concerned how we would lose control every time an attack goes up. My inverted wingback pushes up. Now I'm really depending on this San Jose to do a really good job in defense. But the inverted wingback, because of his inability to come back very quickly to support the defense, becomes a liability in this kind of a system, especially even when we have a wide midfielder on support, right? The wide midfielder, I actually put the wide midfielder on support, and I still noticed that to be the case. So what are my options? So in our game against our next game against Malaga, I would go and change that inverted wingback to a fullback on support and turn that wide midfielder into a wide midfielder on support. Now, with playing with a fullback in that kind of a situation, it will give me the option of also turning him to a fullback on attack to create a kind of a camping system against Malaga. For our next match, I was going for a camping version of your tactic. So what we did was we played for one, played on control structure, pushed our high line up a bit with the offside trap, worked the ball into box as well as roam from position. Instead of your tactic is set up on very narrow, I wanted to use the wings. So we also took it on fairly wide. In terms of roles and duties, what we did was we went to create a camping version of your tactic. So I had a complete wingback on attack, I had a fullback on attack. I changed the duties slightly in midfield. I removed the individual closing downs for all of them. Instead, I opted to use the close down more shot, just to affect that whole group. And then we wanted to play on structure, so when we are attacking we can use the width of the pitch, and then when we are defending we compress the space by pushing up the defensive line and using the offside trap. The only thing I have to be worried about during this game was whether or not we'd be caught out of the position, because I was only looking at my two central defenders and worried about balls being played over the top. In terms of the opposition instructions, I went with my normal mix where I close down and tackle hard their back line and tackle hard their wingers. Well, we comfortably beat Bilbao 4-1 in this game. Was a very good performance from your boys. In fact, Susuaita, who I was trying to figure out whether or not I use him, he scored a hat-trick in this game. We had 11 shots on target. We were literally camping in their half. They didn't even have a single shot on target. In fact, they had no shots on our goal the whole first half. In fact, it was a one-sided affair for the better part. We were able to use the full length of the pitch to create great chances in and around their box. Pretty hard for them to get the ball cleared, and the boys did a very good job of tearing Malaga apart. Malaga came into this match with a defensive mindset, but when they first started the game, they were on a defensive mentality. They tried pushing their mentality up after going down a goal, but they never got into the game. We used the width to full effect, and we were also able to shut them down in terms of passing. One of the things that I noticed that played a big part in this was how we used the two wing backs. We had one complete wing back on the left who was bombing down the flanks because now we're camping, and then we had a full back on attack on the right hand side also to support that kind of play. In our next match against Maribor in the Champions League, we started the match on structure once again because we didn't want to give Maribor a chance to even do anything with their formations. So again, we camped in their half, totally destroying them. Each time we tried to build attacks up, they just failed. And after we scored the first goal, we decided to make things worse. We went highly structured and we finished the match off with a 3-0 win. It's a fantastic tactic, Ali Fang. I want to thank you for sending in the save. To all my patrons, you know what you can do with your saves and how you can get them on the show. Don't forget there's a show called In the Hot Seat where I go through all these changes in a bit more detail when I do a playthrough for those two games. And if you have any questions, you can find me on Twitter at BusterNet or addicted2fm.com, my website. Once again, I'd like to thank all my patrons for their continued support of this channel. You guys make these kind of shows very possible for the rest of the community. Take care. Goodbye.